Yeah, and so
Hold
yeah,
on,
that's the
the
sincere
audio is
type.
kind of breaking. I'm not sure if it's
Oh,
on my or.
okay.
Okay, can we maybe just... Can I rejoin?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but it's the voice is breaking. So
Man.
we can switch to Zoom and try there.
Okay, you can hear me.
It's breaking again, so I cannot hear anything. Unfortunately, in this episode we were suffering from serious technical issues. I tried to improve it with editing, but sometimes you will hear some things that don't really add up or match, but hopefully I think it will not repel you from listening to this episode where we're talking with Olimpia about Enneagram, psychology, voice typing, and other awesome things. So let's start the episode. Welcome to the next episode. We are here with Olimpia, and I guess the best way to introduce her would be ask her how would she introduce herself. So Olimpia, who are you?
Oh man, okay. So yeah, you might, like anyone who's watching, you might know me from my Type Volution channel. If not, I'm Olimpia. I make videos and articles about personality types, especially the Jungian personality types, the 16 personality types, and also Enneagram. And I focus on the Enneagram instincts. And with the Jungian types, I focus mostly on the functions as well. Yeah, I think that's all you have to know about me as a type channel and type person at this point.
So great, you are an expert on this kind of topic, and I've been looking through your YouTube channel, and the top videos that I found were about the voice typing, and I think that this is something unique that I haven't seen anywhere else. So would you like to say more about what is it, the voice typing, and how it functions?
Yeah, so actually I got the idea to make those videos from socionics. Not many people might know about it. Socionics is another system that deals with the Jungian personality types, and there is a theory called communication styles. And I found that theory interesting. And it basically went into those styles that I talk about in my videos. So like sincere, business, cold-blooded, and passionate. And I realized, yeah, no one really talks about this much. So it's like really valuable. And I also realized that a lot of my like clients or viewers, they are really auditory. Like they are really good at just auditory intelligence, so to speak. And I figured, okay, why not combine this? I just show them, like almost like proof that there are different personalities. So there's even people out there who don't believe there are different personality types. Like they're, it's bizarre, but there's people who think, okay, yeah, people are just kind of mostly the same, very little variations. So yeah, it was like a way for, as I said, my viewership to understand, okay, what are the styles and how can you spot them? And also to kind of prove to people it's actually a real thing. Like you can actually see, and well, especially here in this case, how people's personalities are different. And there's like these, based on those communication styles, those 4 main groups.
So what would be the 4 main groups? It is the cold-blooded, passionate, sincere, and business. So what are the differences between these?
Yeah, so I mean, also I have to make a side note. This theory is based on like Russian writings, so the translations might be a bit, yeah, you cannot take it too literally. Like, for example, the sincere types, just because they may sound sincere or it's in the title, it doesn't mean that they're always going to be sincere.
So with sincere, those are like the IF types. So INFJ, INFP, ISFP, ISFJ. And they will have this quality where the voice is melodious, it's not as loud, and you can tell that they kind of seem to speak from the heart, or at least it sounds like there's some feeling in it. With the cold-blooded one, that also has an introverted quality, so it's not that loud, and usually the person sounds rational, like logical, like they sound like they know what's up, and they are very straight to the point, and they tend to not go on big tangents or anything like that. So cold-blooded because there's no fuss. So that's their style. And with the business communication style, it is a bit similar. Like they get down to business, so to speak. Like you can also hear it in their voice. They're going to be louder. They're going to speak faster, oftentimes as extroverts. And there's going to be this no nonsense quality to it. Like, okay, we get to work. That kind of attitude in how they speak and what you hear. And that's going to be the ET types. The previous one were IT types. And then last but not least are the passionate ones. And they are probably one of the easiest to spot, I would say, as long as the person is genuine and they are, just being themselves. Then the EF personalities are usually, talk loudly, fast, and they're like passionate and like very emotional in the way how they talk. So that's going to be like ENFJ, ESFJ, ENFP, ESFP. And I also mentioned in the videos that even though there's going to be those 4 groups, people sometimes can sound a little bit like one of the other ones as well. And it depends on how introverted or extrovert the person is. And also, I have to say, some people will kind of try to sound like a different style. It can be because maybe they're in a business environment and people usually try to speak more like a T type in those environments. So they're going to sound more logical, business-like, cold-blooded, so to speak. Or I also noticed when people try to kind of maybe even flirt or just attract someone, they often go more into the F kind of speaking style. So that's like the rough overview.
You were also talking that there are some kind of better compatibilities between these kind of styles, that it's better if there are certain kind of types talking together compared to different ones. So what would be the ones that are more compatible than the others?
Yeah, the most compatible styles are the complements. So extrovert with introvert and feeler with thinker. So in this case, that would be the business style with the sincere style and the passionate with the cold-blooded style. Yeah, they just complement each other. What can happen in some of my videos, I give like funny examples, especially with the extroverts. It's very obvious when you have 2 extroverts in a conversation, they usually fight for the upper hand. Like they often talk over each other too much, or they feel like the other person talks too much. That can happen with the extroverts. So that would be passionate, and passionate business, or business and business. And with the introverts, it depends. Like it's not necessarily bad, but it can sometimes either get a bit boring, or what I noticed, especially with some of my clients who are introverts, they say, "Oh, I notice when I'm with an introvert, I feel like I have to kind of steer the conversation, or I have to do something because they don't naturally do it." So that can happen. That it's a bit more down low, or I don't know how to say, like low key. But yeah.
So you as an INFJ would have the sincere communication style, and me as an INTJ would have the cold-blooded. So I guess that we would not be the most compatible because we are both kind of introverted, and therefore it would maybe be better for the conversation to have some kind of extrovert to bring more energy into the conversation, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the idea. I have to say though that with the sincere and cold-blooded, it can still be interesting enough. It's still better than the same styles with each other. So because at least you have like the feeling, thinking connection. So that can still be more interesting. But having said all that, I think I also make it clear at the end of the video, communication style is not the main marker of compatibility. Like it's not really that important. So people with the same personality type, especially with the sincere ones, they can be quite compatible with each other and they can still have nice conversations. It's just gonna like lack that, like you said, energy or dynamic thing in the conversation. But yeah, it's not that important.
So we have many different kind of concepts. We have the MBTI types, we have the Enneagram, we have the Enneagram instincts, and then we have the communication styles. So which of these would be the most important in terms of compatibility?
Yeah. So for me, it's kind of like a fight between the Jungian types and the Enneagram instincts. I would say they rank both the highest. Well, but I would still put Jungian types a little bit higher, then followed by instincts, and then the communication styles.
I've seen that many creators are focusing a lot on the Jungian MBTI types, but with you, I noticed that you really go in depth in the Enneagram instincts and that you have a theory which would be the bucket. So can you tell us more about your bucket theory for the Enneagram instincts, which would be about the social, self-preservation, and sexual instincts?
Yeah, I guess I can also say the reason why I go a lot into the instincts is because I don't see enough people doing it, and I found it to be very useful with personal development and also compatibility. And yeah, with the bucket analogy, yeah. So basically, everyone has like a stacking. So everyone has a certain order when it comes to the instincts, and many people mistakenly believe that the first instinct means it's your best instinct. The order actually doesn't really necessarily mean what is your best or worst instinct, but there's a little bit of a correlation there, and it's mostly what you care about the most. So naturally, people will, I mean, the average person will spend most of their time developing the first instinct because they care the most about it. But some people have it twisted, and I have to say I had it twisted in the past. So this is also why I personally use the bucket analogy with myself and also with my clients in a way. So the first instinct is like the bucket that you put anything you put in it is it's like liquid gold. Like you are obsessed with it. It's like the most heavenly elixir on earth. Like you cannot get enough of it. But that's also the problem. It's you're too reliant on it, too obsessive with it, so it can actually be like to your detriment. And the second bucket, so to speak, your second instinct is the one that is just right, where there's no obsessiveness. But let me first go to the last one. So with the last instinct, the last bucket, I say it has like a hole at the bottom. So no matter how much you pour into it, you will never really fill it up completely, and you will never feel truly satisfied. So that's the thing, like with satisfaction. So with the first one, it's so delicious, it's so awesome, but the problem is you also, if you cannot get enough of something, you're not balanced really, right? And with the last one, there's also no balance. It just goes right through. And the second instinct tends to be, on average, with most people, the most balanced, because it doesn't turn the liquid into anything delicious, and it doesn't have a hole at the bottom. So it's basically just water. You like, yeah, that's what I say. Like it's just water. Like it's exactly right. Now this is assuming that, like I said, the person is not too unhealthy. If someone is so super mentally unhealthy, then everything is going to be bad. Like every instinct is going to be bad, and you're not going to be happy in any of the instincts. But just on average, this is how it works. And I also say this is how you should see what you put your energy and time into. So many people, when they try to develop themselves, they focus too much on the last bucket, on the last instinct. And like I said, it will never make you feel that satisfied, even if you reach a good level at it. And with the first instinct, it's also way too lopsided. It's too obsessive. But still, you should still put some effort into it because it is going to make you happier. And with the second one as well. And I say that the second one is the most balanced because many people underestimate their second instinct. They think, oh, it's not really that important. I guess it's fine. But a lot of people actually find their hidden strength in that instinct. It depends. I mean, many people usually have their strength in either the first or second instinct. It's rare that it's the last one. Even that can happen in some rare cases. But even the irony is, even if someone is naturally gifted at their last instinct, they will not really value it that much. So I see that a lot of times with certain extroverted people who are extroverts, like in the Jungian sense. Like they're obviously like very loud, very energetic, in your face, like they're obviously extroverted, but they don't truly feel that much satisfaction from social interactions or social belonging. They actually feel more satisfied with their, like, having a partner, for example, or focusing on the relationship. So in that case, it's like one of those tricky things. And also another example, I would say in my case, like, I'm an introvert, but I also have the social instinct first. So that's also another thing that's can be a bit tricky. So yeah, that's mostly it.
Okay, so for me, when I'm the SX, SP, and SO, so that would be sexual, self-preservation, and social, then I guess your recommendation for you would be for me to focus on the self-preservation and not so much on the social in terms of growth, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this advice is especially for people who are at the very beginning, who haven't done much self-development, who may even be rather unhealthy at the moment. And the second instinct is the one that gets like very unhealthy at the last. So that's why I say the bucket is like just right. So even if someone is quite unhealthy, the second instinct is the last one that's going to be too unhealthy. So it's the easiest to get into and to develop. The first one, it's there's too much attachment to it, and the last one is, yeah, obviously it just won't satisfy you. So yeah, if you are like at the beginning, then I would say yes, focus on the self-preservation. If you feel like your self-preservation is already doing pretty well, then you can also go to the first instinct. So yeah, so I would say you start with the second one, then you go to the first, and then you go to the last one. And I mean, I think in that video, maybe I made it sound like, oh, you should never focus on your last instinct. But I would actually say it is good to also include the last one, just so you have, like, we need all the instincts to be good. Like we just want everything. I mean, we want everything to be good, right? But if you have more or less mastered the first and second instinct, or you're working on those, then you can go to the last one, I would say. So then you have it all.
So just a brief recap or summary about what is the sexual self-preservation social like for those that may not be familiar with it.
Okay, you mean like the individual instincts?
Yeah, the individual instincts. Like, what is the specific, or what is the thing that makes that particular one unique or different from the other ones? Hello? Is it frozen? So when it comes to the Enneagram instincts, there are three: social, self-preservative, and sexual. So what are the differences between these, or what is each about?
Yeah, so the social instinct is, yeah, about socializing. It's about being part of the social group, social belonging, friendships, platonic relationships, platonic bonding. That's really mostly it. Can also be social status, social acclaim, fame, popularity, but that can also overlap a little bit with certain Enneagram types. But it's still mostly a social thing. And also the social instinct is often mistaken for extroversion. It's possible for an introvert to have a social instinct. So they will feel more fulfilled if they are, like, let's say, part of the social group, if they have like friends, if they have social acclaim or status. But they can, because they're introverts, they will get drained eventually. Like, they will still feel like having low energy at times. The sexual instinct is also about bonding, and I know there's some people who say it's not. I would say it is. So the sexual instinct, like one aspect of it is, yes, like the attraction, the passion. So attraction, attractiveness as well. Like how do you look or how do you come across? Which can also be related to the social instinct. So with the social instinct, attractiveness is more in the sense of social attractiveness. So some people who are social first want to be considered attractive, but mostly for social reasons. Whereas the sexual instinct wants to be attractive, literally mostly just to attain a partner or attain partners, whatever their preference is. Yeah, so it's that attraction part of it. It can also be being creative. Like a lot of creativity actually comes from the sexual instinct, like creating something. The sexual instinct can, literally be procreation as well. But once again, there also has to be a distinction between that and just like fulfilling physical desires or something like that. It's not always the sexual instinct. But yeah, it's like creating something, and it can be bonding within a romantic relationship. Sexual instinct people usually feel more happy and fulfilled if they have a good romantic relationship or a partner, and if they create something in a way, like they are creative or bring something new into the world. It can be a child, it can be a project, it can also even be a hobby. With the self-preservation instinct, it is about preservation. It is about resources, money, food, clothing, housing, finances. Yeah, all of those things. It can also be things like gardening, to some extent also health can go into it. But I would also add that I think I mentioned in an old video that self-preservation is not just about yourself. So if someone is okay, I was about to say if someone is more mature, but some people are not that mature and still do it. But overall, like maturity is one aspect where you don't just preserve yourself, but you start preserving other areas of life as well. Like it could be the environment, for example, like environmentalism is very much self-preservation, like preserving the nature, for example. It can be basically just cooking for someone is also self-preservation or preserving. That's, you cook for someone, and that's related to the self-preservation instinct. So it's not just about you, but also other people. And I think in that video I also try to tie it to the animal kingdom, because it makes it more universal and also easier to understand. So you see the self-preservation in action also when, for example, a mother nurtures her child and gives the child food, for example. Like that's still preservation, but it's not just about you, it's also about someone else. Yeah, so every instinct can be selfish in a way. So even the social instinct can be selfish. Like let's say someone just wants to be famous because for their ego or something. That's still a selfish thing, even though the person is social. And the sexual instinct person can be selfish. For example, they just wanna attract as many people as possible. They don't really care what the other person is feeling. They just want to be hot or whatever. So that can also still be very selfish. But once the person is over that or has not so much of an ego about it, then they tend to extend that instinct to others, like to the world at large. So social, for example, you start maybe helping out your friends, or you start helping people when it comes to socializing, or you help with social causes. Or with the sexual instinct, you might help other people with relationships, or you might improve your own relationship. And self-preservation, like I said, environmentalism, things like that.
Nice. So you are also talking about the light side and dark side, that each of these can be also like having negative consequences or impact or others, but also a positive one. And so that could be something connected to being healthy and unhealthy. So what is your basically perspective on this kind of light side or dark side?
Yeah, I think since like a year or so, or even maybe a little longer, I've been like obsessed with the light and dark side stuff. I just put it into everything. And it is essentially just unhealthy, healthy. But I say light side, dark side because there's many people who think the dark side is only like quote unquote weak. But the dark side is actually pretty strong. So I think I also mentioned that in some video. Like if it was weak, it wouldn't be a threat. It's a threat because it's strong. And light side and dark side are both strong in their own ways. So of course the dark side is not great, but many people, if they are like in a state of feeling kind of weak or think they are weak, they often go to the dark side because it's easier and they try to get their power there. And the dark side is, like I said, essentially people being unhealthy, and it's a way to, they usually create destruction. So that's one easy way to tell if you're on the dark side or not. Are you destructive? And it can be self-destructive as well. I think with my instinctual dark side videos, I mostly go into how it's destructive towards other people, I would say, but it can also be destructive to yourself. So that's usually a good sign that you're on the dark side. You are just destroying things, like not in a good way. Like sometimes destruction is like sometimes you have to create something new. But yeah, the dark side is basically just attacking either yourself or other people in some way and just creating chaos. And the light side usually is doing the opposite. It's usually helping yourself, helping other people. It's making life better. So and the same, and you can apply that to the instincts. You can apply that to MBTI types, Jungian types. So it's pretty universal. I think you can apply it to almost anything.
Regarding the MBTI, you were talking or looking at it from the type roles. That you see each personality type having some kind of specific role that is connected to the purpose that they should basically fulfill. So how do you kind of define this kind of purpose for the types?
Overall, so I call it purpose roles because I noticed, I was just thinking about, what is even the purpose of having different personality types? Like, why don't we all just have one personality or two personalities? And I came to the conclusion that the purpose is that we all need those different purposes, personalities in our world. So that also takes away from that argument that, certain personalities are better than others. No, like every personality is needed in our world, and every personality has a purpose. So that's how I arrived at the purpose roles. And then it was just a matter of looking at people who are, or like examples of people who are like quote unquote in their prime, or like seem to embody the best that the personality can be. And that's usually the light side. Though I have to say, people can also be on the dark side and be in their so-called purpose role. Like that's also possible. But the purpose role is basically when the person is using their strengths and their preferences. That's basically it. And like I said, I was just looking at people and I was looking for trends and patterns. And you could say maybe archetypes for each type. So that's how I arrived at it. And also, actually, funny enough, maybe tie it back to what we said earlier about communication styles or voice typing. I realized that with some titles that I found, that the personality types kept saying those things. I noticed some personalities tend to mention certain words more often. So, for example, for INFJ, I coined it the psychospiritualist. Also, some of my titles had some evolutions, you could say. Like first, I think it was psychoanalyst, but I was not too happy with that because that almost sounds too logical. But then I just observed an II or INFJ, and they talked about psychospirituality, and I was like, oh yeah, that's actually a perfect term for this purpose. So I just used that. So I either just found a purpose or title based on what the person said or what they are. Or sometimes, I mean, of course, I would also look at, okay, what has socionics said about the types, and do I see a purpose in what they describe? So I think, for example, with the ESFJ, I call ESFJ the host, and I think I also saw somewhere a long time ago that in socionics they also call ESFJ the host, like as a term for the type. So I was like, oh yeah, I actually see that that's actually their purpose. So actually the title, it actually describes not just what they tend to be like, but what also their purpose is. On that note, I also have to say, some people think if they just see the title, oh, that means the person will act like this, or that will be their purpose. By the way, there's some noise, sorry. But people don't always, like in real life, people don't always follow the purpose of their personality. Like they, especially when they're younger or when they're trying to find a career, or even if they have a career already, many people go with, oh, what currently tends to make money for them, or what do their parents want, or, and then they often don't really go for their type's purpose. So yeah, at this point, it's not really possible, I would say, to type people just based on the purpose rules. But still, what I see is, the people who are in their prime, like if you type people who are like really showing the best of their personality, you might be able to trace it back and say, okay, this must be that kind of purpose role. But yeah, I would still say don't focus just on the title and the purpose, because some people try to be different things. Like that's just how it is. So it's my purpose roles are kind of a mix of both observation and advice in a way. Like I have observed it with like great examples of certain types, but at the same time, I also kind of say, oh, by the way, if you are this type, you should probably do this, like that kind of thing.
One thing you mentioned was that sometimes it's kind of difficult to type people and for them to find their type. Now, one thing that I really liked about what you wrote was the correlation between Enneagram and MBTI type, that some MBTI types are much more likely to be certain kind of Enneagram types. So I guess this could be some kind of way to validate if you are that kind of type, if you know both your MBTI and Enneagram, like if it matches with the correlation that you have observed. So what would be the kind of correlation that you have found out about the Enneagram and MBTI types?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obvious that this is actually kind of a heated topic. It depends. Some people, there's like two camps. So one camp says every personality type can be every Enneagram type. And then there's the other camp that says, no, every Jungian type can only be one or two Enneagram types, like very strict. I kind of fall in the middle, though I have to say I kind of lean more towards the stricter camp. It's so they say you can have, like, say for example, you can be an extrovert and you can be a type 5, and I would say no, it's just not possible. Like it contradicts each other. Like the 5 is inherently introverted. It's very obvious in the Enneagram texts, and it has also been my observation that they are just introverts. But of course, there's going to be people who say no, you can have a 5-ish motivation and can be an extrovert. But with those examples, usually there's something else going on. Usually the person is maybe, let's say, very avoidant of people, or has like an avoidant, maybe even personality disorder, or just avoidant attachment style. And then they think this makes them a type 5. And that's not really necessarily the case. So the correlations have also changed a little bit over the time, but at the moment, I say when it comes to core types, type 1s are ISTJ, INTJ in MBTI terms. Type 2s are ESFJ, ENFJ. Type 3s are ENFP, ESFP, ENTJ, ESTJ. Type 4s are INFP, ISFP, and perhaps INFJ. Actually, on that one, I'm starting to wonder a bit, but I would still say it is possible. Type 5, INTP, INTJ. Type 6, that has actually changed a lot for me with type 6. I used to say in the beginning that every type can be type 6 because I've seen so many people with 6 connection. But now looking back, I realized it was just that they had, I had like a connection, a fix or a wing or something. Like 6 is one of the most common types. And very many people have a connection to 6, but that does not mean it's their core type. So I had to change this up. So now I would say core type, the vast majority of 6s are ISTP, and the rest are other SP types. So ESTP, ESFP, ISFP even. With 7 is EP, so ENTP, ENFP, ESFP, ESTP. 8 ESTJ, ENTJ, and ESTP. And 9 ISFJ, ISFP, INFJ, INFP. So once again, I might have to think about like, I in the past also considered like INTP, or actually also ICJ, I have to add ICJ. But yeah, this one, I'm also still thinking about it, especially with INTP. It seems possible, but I haven't really seen it. And with, what was the other one? Yeah, ISTJ as well, but I still think it seems still possible. So I would still say ISTJ can be 9 as well. Yeah, so like I said, this is my current overview, and I know for many people this is too restrictive. It's just what I've found to be true. It's just my take on it, based on the types and what I've read, what I've seen. So
it seems like you are trying to connect many different kind of theories, which is MBTI, socionics, Enneagram, instincts. So these kind of theories have different kind of perspective on the compatibility. Like some say that these types are more compatible than others. So what would be, since you're combining all of those, which would be like the best kind of compatibility, or your compatibility theory from combining all of these together? Like which types would be the most compatible?
So most compatible when it comes to the Jungian types. So I go away from MBTI here because at this point I find MBTI is too much influenced by like Big Five. I don't know if you're aware of Big Five, but it's too much influenced by that to the point where it's almost not really Jungian anymore, at least how I see it. So I know there's certain type recommendations with MBTI. I tried them in the past. I looked at them in the past with like the Jungian perspective, with the functional perspective, and it didn't really work. So, but it might work if you just look at it from the kind of Big Five perspective of saying like, oh yeah, N is like open-minded and S is traditional. Like if you go by that kind of thinking, then it might actually work for you. Like I've seen that it can work for people if they just do it on this superficial level. Like if it's just like, oh, N is open-minded and creative, S is traditional, not creative, T is like unemotional, F is emotional, and E is sociable, and I is kind of withdrawn. Like if you go by these very superficial qualities, then it might even work. But in my case, I don't do that. So I go more by the socionics recommendation. In that case, they say having the same quote unquote valued cognitive functions is the most compatible. So that would mean if you still go with the functions, that basically all types in like quote unquote MBTI terms that have the same 4 functions, just in different order or the same order, would be the most compatible. So like types that have FE, NI, TI, SE, they would be the most compatible with each other. So that's like the overall idea.
So this would be the duality in the socionics. So you would consider the dual kind of compatibility to be the best?
I mean, based on the theory, it should be the best, but that's also why I kind of mentioned the real life implications, and also actually when you combine it with an Enneagram. So maybe I just go into Enneagram now. So the problem that can happen with duality, even on a theoretical or like just personality type basis, is that duals can have opposite Enneagram. So they can, opposite meaning they can have opposite instincts and type of trifix theory stuff. Do you know about that?
Tri-type, you mean? Or
Yeah. Have you heard of it?
yeah.
Just very shortly, it's so that the idea is that you have like 3 main Enneagram connections, and one from each center. So one from the gut, one from the mind, and one from the heart center. So based on my approach, I will just say tri-fix, because tri-type is technically trademarked, and I mean, if you want to say anything about tri-type, you have to kind of consult it with Catherine Favre. So this is like, that's why I use tri-fix, because this is my own idea. So my idea is that you need to have at least one fix in common with someone. So this is also the theory that they mention in psychology about similarity. That similarity can be attractive, and it's basically having a fix in common, or 2 or 3 fixes. So let's say like 5, 4, and 9, and then the other person is like, I don't know, 3, 6, 9, and then they both have 9 in common. So that would be compatible in the Enneagram type way. However, like I said, with duality, there's many duals that have no fixed common. So that's why I cannot say duality is always the most compatible. Then also when you add the instincts, then that can also be a problem. So I mentioned that. So the opposite instincts are those where you only have the second instinct the same and the rest is reversed. So like, let's say SX then the opposite would be SOSP. So the problem is how you care about the sexual and social. So this is like the most opposite, and it's just a problem. And there's also dual to have that, who have that opposite, and then it's just not great. So yeah, if you add that, so you add this, and then you add Enneagram, and then dual is not always the best. So yeah, that's just the personality type stuff. And then if you take into account also real life dynamics, so real life dynamics are things like what you are uniquely attracted to, which can be based on your past and things like that. I talk a lot about this with my clients. We often go into what is it that you are attracted to, what is the thing that you tend to seek out, and how does it overlap with actual compatibility, because people can have the issue that they are very attracted to something that they're not compatible with. So then we tend to try to find like a middle ground. So that can happen. This is especially the case when you have people who, let's say, are very quote unquote heteronormative, like women who are very feminine and they want a stereotypically masculine guy. And then even if their dual is a certain type, let's say the dual is INFJ, an INFJ man is not going to be the most stereotypically masculine dude. So they're probably not going to want that kind of guy. You have to take into account all these things. Yeah, I mean, okay, there's a lot of information now, but basically then at the end of the day, you kind of have to see what is the most compatible combination in terms of what you're attracted to and all that. So you kind of have to combine everything and then you will get like a couple of types that are the most compatible with you. But yeah, it can be quite complicated.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of it, and different kind of things are exceptions to different things. So it may be very difficult to just learn the theory and figure out it yourself. And this is why, for example, you're doing these kind of coaching services where you already know all the stuff and you can manage these kind of exceptions to figure out the perfect kind of match for people. And that is why I guess it may be very helpful to basically, instead of trying to learn all of these kind of things, to just sign up for your coaching, right? That you're doing.
Yeah.
So
you don't have to figure it all out like this.
So, for example, if I would sign up for a coaching, I would tell you that I'm INTJ, 1 wing 9, sexual, self-preservative, social. Like, would you be able to basically figure out like what would be some kind of compatibility types for me that would be the most suitable?
Yeah, so if we just go by that typing, I can give recommendations. With INTJ 1 SXSP, so the wing doesn't matter that much here. It's mostly the one. Okay, so INTJ, what's most compatible with INTJ would be other types that have FI, SE, T, and NI in any order. So for INTJ, there would be INTJ, ENTJ, ESFP, ISFP in like quote unquote MBTI terms. But this is based on the functions. So just based on that, just based on your type profile and on when it comes to one, I would also have to know what the other fixes or the other connection points are. But if I don't, then I would just say anyone that has a one fix or connection. That's like the easiest. It's not necessary. Like if you have some other kind of connection, let's say maybe you both have a 6 connection, that would be fine as well. So there I would need more information. With the SXSP, I mentioned it in my video. This depends also on your preferences, your relationship goals, and your health level. Overall, based on the theory alone, the stackings that are most compatible with each other would technically be in the same flow. We haven't really talked about that much yet, but it's where the instincts go in this like in the same flow direction. So SXSP, SP goes to SO, SO goes to SX, and then back. So basically those stackings. So SXSP, SPSO, SOSX. However, the caveat is SPSO has no sexual instinct, so I would cut this out. And I would add SPSX because it has the same instincts, just different order. That's also fine. And then, yeah, it depends kind of on your preference, what you're looking for. So I personally like SXSP with SOSX because then you have the same flow and you have all instincts in the couple. So that tends to make people more balanced, especially if they're going to have a family, or even not, if not, they're just going to have all instincts in the mix. So that usually tends to create more balance. But some people don't really care for that. So in that case, yeah, just go with someone else who's also social last. So SXSP or PSX. And then that was it, right? Yeah, that was it. So that would be my main recommendations. And then it kind of depends on, what are your personal preferences, and you can kind of choose out of these options.
Okay, so I guess this will be much easier than trying to figure out everything by yourself. And you're doing your coaching services from your website, right? You also have a Facebook group and a YouTube channel, so you'll be able to see all of the links in below. And for the end, do you have something that you would like to say to the audience?
Okay. Oh, by the way, I also have an Instagram, but it's still pretty new. What I want to say to the audience. So a lot of people, I even thought about making a video about this. A lot of people think the main thing is about typing people correctly, retypings, mistypings, all that stuff. And yeah, that does matter on some level. But you won't really figure out your true type just by theorizing about forever. So of course, I would say, go to a quote unquote expert or someone like me, who can type you. But if you don't want to do that, the next best thing to do is to really try to optimize your lifestyle based on the advice you get for your type. Yeah, follow advice and see if it works for them, and based on that, type themselves or follow the advice of someone. Like really try it out. And if the advice doesn't fit, maybe the advice is not the problem, but your typing is, or vice versa. So that's one way to really figure out what your type is, besides, getting opinion from an expert. So yeah, that's like one of the last things I want to say.
Okay, so thank you very much, and hopefully you enjoyed it. So even though unfortunately technical issues have created many problems, I hope that you enjoyed this episode and maybe see that even if technology fails you, you can still basically scavenge something and make an episode out of it. So stay hopeful and don't be discouraged when you're facing with technical issues. Therefore, to learn more about Olimpia, make sure to visit her website typevolution.com. her YouTube channel, Type Volution, or her Facebook group and Instagram. Bye bye.